Hello, welcome to Web of Stories. My name is Melinda and I am here with my September book haul revisit. So I'm only revisiting 1 year because I really started keeping track of this in 2023. But I'm going to look back to the books that I brought into my collection in 2023 and tell you if I've read them or hauled them or whatever, what's happened to them since then. I do plan to do this every year following, and I will tell you now that any book that I talk about here that I have read or unhauled or whatever, if it's read, unhauled, DNF'd, whatever, you're not going to see it again in future ones. I'm just going to carry forward the ones that I have not yet read. But I do have quite a few on here that I haven't even counted yet. So we're just going to go in. This is unfortunately a bigger month. So the first book I have is an audiobook that I used a Libro credit for, and that is A Line to Kill by Anthony Horowitz. This is one of, and I don't remember which one, it's one of the Hawthorne and Horowitz books. These are really fun, kind of fast-paced, snarky, little satirical mysteries that I actually really enjoy on audio. So I am working through the series. I don't remember what number this is. I've listened to the first two. If this is number 3, I'll listen to it. It'll be the next one I listen to. If not, it'll come in succession. I just, haven't listened to one lately. The next one is a short story. I don't remember if this is a Kindle single or not, but I think it is. So you have to get it on Amazon or you can get the audio for Audible, but you're limited on where you can get it. And it's an author that I had been wanting to try. And then I heard about this book from Chris Wallach at Book Cougars, and it sounded really interesting, so I picked it up. And it's The Wehrwolf, and look down below for the spelling of that, by Alma Katsu. So this is a short story, and it is set during World War II Germany, about a town where there's a werewolf, but it is very clearly, and Alma Katsu says this in the afterword, that it is a commentary on what the United States is going through right now. She was inspired to write it after January 6th. I really enjoyed this. I thought this was a very powerful, very well done story, and it has made me excited to read more Alma Katsu. And she is on my TBR for October, so hopefully I will get another Alma Katsu under my belt this coming month. Still haven't read it. And that is Happiness Falls by Angie Kim. Now, I really enjoyed Miracle Creek, maybe not as much as some people, but I did enjoy it. I thought it was smart. And I know Happiness Falls has not gotten like the same reception. So I am tempering my expectations with it, but I still do plan to read it. I just need to find time to read it. If anyone wants to buddy read, let me know. We'll schedule something, because that seems to be the way I get. I should say that now. If anyone wants to buddy read any of these that I have not read, just let me know and we can schedule it. Probably won't be for the next couple months, but we can get it on our calendars. And the next book I have is something that I picked up at my pop-up library bookstore. So in our library, we have a little Friends of the Library bookstore that's there all year, except when they're having their big library sale, which is important because the big library sale does that. Oh, that was October. So you'll hear more about that next month. It is in September this month, so expect another haul this month. This I got out of the pop-up store. And this is, this is Blue Diary by Alice Hoffman. I will frequently just go into this with a couple authors that I am, namely Alice Hoffman, Alice Hoffman, and Barbara Kingsolver. I don't do this for Louise Erdrich because I choose to buy her books from Birch Bark Books, but I will go and see if they have copies in there of books I don't already have. So they had Blue Diary by Alice Hoffman. It's on my shelf. I will get to it when I get to it, but I will get to it because I plan to read her to 0. So yeah. And then we have a book that I pre-ordered, and I read it as soon as I got it, and I have spoken about it over and over and over again. And yes, it's by William Ken Krueger, and that is The River We Remember. This is what I consider to be the third of his standalones, because I don't put The Levee and The Devil's Bed in with that. So the first one's Ordinary Grace, and then this Tender Land and The River We Remember. I put those together. This was his third of those, and I said at the time after I read this, they were all 5-star. This is the most 5-star of them. I've since reread Ordinary Grace, so I don't know at this point which one I would put over the other. They were both equally good. I really loved this Tender Land, but if I had to rank them, I don't know what would be number 1 or number 2, but this Tender Land would be number 3. It was still 5 stars. Loved this book. I have recommended it widely. William Kent Krueger. You know what? You know I'm going to rave about him. So there you go. Okay. Oh, and then I have something that I picked up at a little free library, and that is Icy Sparks by Gwyn, Hyman, Rubio. I don't know anything about this book except I recognize the title and it looked like something I might want to read, so it's on my shelf now. Have not read it yet. I'll get to it eventually, as I say about most books. And then I have another book that I picked up at that library, pop-up library bookstore. It's a Barbara Kingsolver this time, and it is Unsheltered. It is not Unsettled. When I actually went to start getting the pictures to put up for this video, I had this in my thing as Unsettled and I couldn't pull it up. So it took me a while to figure out that it's Unsheltered. I don't know what it's about. It's by Barbara Kingsolver. So there you go. Again, I will get to it when I get to it. Now I have 2 Book of the Month books. My birthday month is September, so I always get that extra add-on for Book of the Month. So I get 2 books in September. Neither one I have read yet. So again, the first one is Evil Eye by Etaf Rum. I really enjoyed, what is that? Woman is No Man. Was that Etaf Rum's first book? I read it with one of my book groups and I enjoyed it. It was very sad, but it was a good book club discussion book. So I really was happy to see that they had her second book. And I couldn't wait to read it. And apparently I was wrong. I can wait to read it because I haven't yet. So there. So yes, that one's waiting for me. And the second one is The Vaster Wilds by Lauren Groff, which I was very excited about when I got it. I have heard some kind of, it didn't work for some people. I'm still planning to read it. The priority may not be quite as high for me because of that. So those are both still on my shelf. And then I have the book that I got for Victober last year, which is The Way We Live Now by Anthony Trollope. This is the book that taught me that if I'm going to read classics, it needs to be on an e-reader because that print is freaking small. I mean, I enjoyed this. I can't remember if this was my first Trollope or not. I don't remember if I read a Trollope before this, so it didn't stick with me. And this was it was fine. It just was really physically hard for me to read because the print was so small. So now I know, get the ebooks for classics. It's the first time I did a read along with Victober, and I'm glad I did, although I have chosen not to do it this year. I am going to read a Victorian book for Victober. It's not going to be what the group read is. I just kind of realized that no, there's something else I want to read this month. So, and then I have one of my favorite books that I read recently. And this is Mortal Monarchs, 1,000 Years of Royal Deaths by Suzie Edge. So I first came to know Suzie Edge through TikTok and Instagram. She's very prolific on there. She is a doctor turned historian. And she talks a lot about medical things in history. And she does these things where she gets her pen out and she does these trees to tell you how people are related to other people. It's a lot of fun. Check her out on TikTok, Instagram, whatever. She double posts, so either one's fine. And this book is a book that I actually recommend to people who are like, oh, I want to read something about English history and I don't know where to start. And I say, read this book. Basically what this does is I believe it starts pre-William the Conqueror. But at least from William the Conqueror on, it goes through every monarch and how they died. And some other consorts and maybe like Edward the Black Prince and there, some other people who could have or were near the monarchy. When it was first published, it went from that first person to George the whatever, Queen Elizabeth's father. I have the paperback copy, and that one has an added chapter that has Queen Elizabeth's death in it. So this book was published, Suzie Edge was going on publicity, was pre-publication publicity tour for this book when Queen Elizabeth died, which good timing, bad timing, I don't know. There you go. But when it came out in paperback, she wrote another chapter. And you can definitely tell like there was one, it once ended here and now it ends there. But what was really interesting in that last chapter that she talks about, because she actually lives just right down the road from Balmoral. So she was right there. And also she mentioned that her GP, or we call them primary care physicians in the United States, her doctor was the doctor who pronounced the death of Queen Elizabeth. So It was really interesting. And she's very funny and she's very, very readable. So yeah, if you are like me and a history nut, this is great because she really gets into like the medical stuff in a way you can understand. But if you aren't a history person, but you kind of want to walk through English history that's entertaining, this is another great way to do it. So do recommend that one. I'm going to give Freida McFadden a try. I haven't yet, but I'm going to. To see if I like her. So I know that Jim at Jim's Books Reading and stuff really likes her. Yeah, I'm going to read The Housemaid. I've been told that's where to start with her. So eventually I will get to that. And speaking of eventually, now I have a book that, again, I pre-ordered because I wanted to read right when it came out and I still haven't. And that is The Last Devil to Die by Richard Osman, which is the third or fourth book in the Thursday Murder Club. I just haven't gotten to it yet. I have it. It's on my Kobo. I need to get to it. I know I have like another year until the next Thursday Murder Club book comes out, so I'm okay on time, but I need to get done. So I'm kind of embarrassed that it's been sitting there. I have a number of books that like I ordered because I couldn't wait to read them and then I haven't read them. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I need to be more mindful of my book buying, and I'm working on that. Another reason why is because then I have these books that I don't know why I have them, like this next one called Veil of Doubt by Sharon Virts or Virtus. I don't know why I ordered this book. I don't know what it's about. I don't remember where I heard about it, but it's on my shelf now. I will get to it. I might really like it. Who knows? Who knows? It's there. So yeah, again, I need to be more mindful about my book buying. And then I have an audiobook. This was a book that I was told specifically to read on audio because it's got a podcast element, which I think that works really well in an audiobook, and that is None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I do recommend the audio. I do think you need to do it on audio. And it's, I enjoyed it, but I can't say it was like a completely spectacular book that blew my mind. It was exactly what I expected it to be, which is fine. I mean, that's not a bad thing. I'm just saying it met expectations. But yeah, definitely this one is worth getting on audio because of the podcast element to it. Yeah. And then I have a DNF. And this one is Between Summer's Longing and Winter's End by Leif G.W. Persson. Jennifer at Jennifer Loves Books and I were going to buddy read this, and we started. And I don't think either of us made it through the first chapter. And we're like, I can't do this. Cannot do this. So that got DNF'd. And yeah, so that one's already been unhauled and it's out. It didn't happen. I followed this one up, though, with one of my favorite books. It's in one of my favorite short story collections. And if you have not read this, I recommend it for spooky season because it's a perfect spooky season short story collection. And that is Never Whistle at Night, an Indigenous dark fiction anthology. And it's edited by Shane Hawk. This has a lot of authors that you know. It has Sherry Dimeline and Wabishug Rice and Morgan Talty and I believe Stephen Graham Jones. Stephen Graham Jones, I can't remember if he has a story in it or if he does the foreword, but it has a lot of authors that you know. It also has a lot of authors who've never been published before. And that's really exciting. And there was one story in here that was like too much for me. I will say that. And it's by the author who wrote Winter Counts, David Henske Wembley Wyden, which is not surprising because that book is a Tarantino level of violence book. And this one was too much for me. Not saying it was bad. It was just too much for me. But other than that, they were all fantastic. So really highly recommend that short story collection. And I'm following this up with a short novel, a novella. I think that's a little too long to be a short story, so we'll say it's a novella. And this is The Uncommon Reader by Alan Bennett. And this one, a lot of people have talked about. So I don't need to say too much about it, but it's a little story about Queen Elizabeth II, who happens upon a bookmobile and becomes a reader. And if you are a reader, which I'm assuming you are because you're watching BookTube, this one's for you. Just, there you go. And then at Powell's, I picked up a used copy for not very much of the 2006 Best American Short Stories. This one was edited by Ann Patchett. I believe that's why I picked it up, is because it's edited by Ann Patchett. So these like Best American Short Stories and like Best American Mystery and Suspense, those are the two I get. They're really good anthologies. There's not really a tie through them. I don't think you can go wrong with any of them. I think that you're going to get, you know, like any anthology, you're going to get good stories, bad stories. The only thing that really ties these stories together is the time of publication, though. So you're going to get a lot of different things. The editor is usually, the guest editor is usually reflected pretty well in the selection of stories, which is why Ann Patchett is an author that I like. And so I'm assuming that I will really like these stories because she chose them. The last two, so last year's, Lisa Unger did the mystery and suspense, and it was fine. I have not read Lisa Unger, so I can't really speak to that. But Min-Jin Lee did the Best American Short Stories of 2023. And you could tell because the short stories were very diverse. So you can see the guest editor reflected in the stories. Starting in 2023, so I pre-order these. In October, the versions of 2024. Best American Short Stories will be edited by Lauren Groff. And Best American Mystery and Suspense will be edited by S.A. Cosby in 2024. So those are coming up. And then I have Horror Store, which I also have. Oh, I can't get to it easily. Hold on a sec here. I'm gonna probably dump some books over while I do this because I can't remember if I have the picture for this one. I have Horror Store. I got this for the FOMO Book Club, and I was gonna do all of the FOMO Book Club books this year, and then I didn't. Mostly because I didn't do a great job of planning things. But I do have Horror Store, and I'm going to read this in October because, hello, it's Haunted IKEA, or I don't know, it's Horror IKEA. And it is one of the most beautiful books. I just had to have it. I realized I skipped another Grady Hendrix book though. I skipped My Best Friend's Exorcism. I don't have this copy because I gave my copy to my bookish best friend, but I really enjoyed this book. And, yes, it's a kind of a cheesy horror because it's supposed to be like 80s cheesy horror, but it's actually a great book about friendship. And Grady Hendrix wrote 80s teenage girls really, really well. Really strongly recommend My Best Friend's Exorcism. And I really strongly recommend that you don't watch the Amazon Prime adaptation because that thing is horrible. Just read the book. And the final book, which I actually also happen to have, right here, so I'll put this on, is The Witches of Vardo. So this is historical fiction about a witch trial in Norway in 1662. If you have read The Mercies by, what's her name? I'll put it here. It's based on the same one. I've read that book. And I'm really interested to read this and kind of compare them to because this feels more horror-y. And that was more like feminism, girl power-y. I have found that I actually enjoy reading about witch trials. This is much more kind of like what you would see in a witch trial in medieval Reformation, that sort of period of time. Or at least this incident. I haven't read this book yet, so I don't know. But that particular witch scare. So I am really interested in reading that. And I don't know if my schedule, if you've seen my October TBR pile of possibilities, but both Horror Store and The Witches of Vardo are on that. So hopefully I will have those read by next year. And that's it. Those are all the books that I read that I bought, all the books that I mostly didn't read that I brought into my collection in September of 2023. So let me do a count here. Okay. So that's 23 books. And I've read 9 of them, or read or unhauled 9 of them, because one of them was a DNF. So not quite half. And again, I'm really working on being more mindful about my book buying now. So hopefully you're not going to see, well, you are for a few more months. You're going to see hauls like this because I only started like a couple months ago being really mindful about my book buying. But we're going to see that. We're going to hope that gets better. And as I said, next year when it comes around to September and I revisit September 2023, you are not going to see the books that I read or unhauled, DNF'd, during this month. I'm just going to go back to the ones that are still on my shelf. So anyway, thank you very much. Yeah, let me know. Let me know if you like seeing these, because I like doing them. They're really eye-opening to me. And if there's any book on here that you might be, oh, I just realized I skipped another book. I skipped one. I skipped The Body by Stephen King, which I bought to read this September for Shorty September, and I haven't yet, but I might still, because it's only September 20th that I'm filming this. So I have 10 days to read it. But yeah, so there we go. If any of these you want to do buddy read, let me know and we'll try to schedule something. Just let me know down below. Or you can contact me. All of my contact information is also down below. Thank you very much. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.